I'm going to take the roll. Jen Frank.
Here.
Mary Langdon.
Here.
Bill Kraut.
Here.
Beth Twigg. Here. Alex Crawford here. Okay, was the meeting duly noticed?
Yes.
Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
A second. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. You can vote yes. Okay. The agenda is approved 5-0. Okay. We are trying out a new thing tonight to try and take some of the ACC items so that we can have a meeting when we have the regular meeting of just the agenda. We seem to be spending a long time on the ACC items, so we'll see how it goes tonight. And then going forward, we'll see, it depends how much we have on the agenda, whether we move them off separately or whether there's few enough we can take it with a regular meeting. So I think I have Skip.
Yep.
Okay.
As you know, we've got several people on our committee that are in the process of trying to move, relocate, and this is part of the process to replace those. And Milton's house is for sale, and he anticipates an early vote, and he's asked to be replaced now. And so we've identified Bill Hardy, lives on Classic Court, near, not Classic Court, I'm sorry, it's
Cypress Point.
Cypress Point, yeah, Cypress Point. And we've met with him in the committee, talked with him, and I think he'd be a good addition to our committee, and we appreciate you approving him as an addition to replace Milton.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Can I have a motion? This is number 2.
I make a motion, we accept the resignation of Milton Miller.
Number 2. Because he has resigned.
Okay. I was going to continue on and say that, and replace him with William Bill Hardy.
I second.
Okay, it's motioned and seconded following the resignation of Milt Miller to approve the addition of William Bill Hardy on the Hidden Creek Estates ACC. Is there a discussion? No? Okay, you ready for the question? Those in favor of William Bill Hardy replacing Milt Miller, who's resigned from the Hidden Creek Estates ACC, say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is William Hardy here
No,
tonight?
Mr. Hardy's not here today, but he told me that he was willing to serve. He had to pick his son up at college today.
Okay, he is willing to serve. Okay, so the motion is passed and William Bill Hardy is approved to replace Milt Miller, Hidden Creek Estates ACC.
Peter Shenko, 2532 Cypress Point Circle. 6547 Kenton Street. This is for a variance for a driveway extension that's going to be 2 feet from the side property line instead of the 10 foot, so we need to a variance.
Is your microphone on?
Yeah, is better? Okay.
Say something.
Testing.
Yeah.
6547 Kenton Street. This is for a variance for a driveway extension 2 feet from the side property line.
What's the variance?
The variance is because it's not 10 feet, it's 2 feet.
Okay.
So the only thing the ACC recommends to approve, just with the stipulation that, as we've been with all others, that the homeowner keeps all runoff water onto his own property.
I think we talked about that last meeting.
Right, yes.
Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion, we accept the variance at 6547 Campton Street for driveway extension 2 feet to side property line. And contingent on homeowner maintaining runoff water on his own property.
Have a second?
I second.
Okay. Motion and seconded to approve the variance on 6547 Kempton Street.
Can I have discussion?
Yeah, you're gonna get it afterwards, I'm just stating the motion.
Okay, I thought you already,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay, for the driveway extension 2 foot to the side property line contingent on the owner taking care of the water runoff on his own, of his property. Discussion.
I'll be brief. Again, I want to reiterate what I did on the last meeting when this was discussed. This water runoff issue, and Pete, I mean, he made a good point, you know, it's not our responsibility and stuff, but I think we need to start taking responsibility. This is getting to be a real big problem, especially with new homes and stuff. It's happened at my house, it happened at Beth Walter's house, her house completely went underwater. Because we're not managing and checking this water runoff and stuff. So what I propose is that when they do turn in an application, you know, that they show some kind of a diagram or something as to what they're going to do. You know, not just say, okay, well, you know, we'll make sure it doesn't run over to the other property. You need to have something in writing that shows, okay, this is what we're gonna do. You gotta have a plan. You just can't say, you know, you manage to make sure the water doesn't go over on the other guy's property. You can't do that. And I think we have.
You couldn't even enforce it, how could you enforce it?
Well, because you can make a policy.
No, I'm saying if you had nothing, how could you enforce it? If they just said, I'll make sure.
Well, ask them to submit a plan, and then ACC is responsible to go out and make sure that they did what they said they were going to do. Okay? The county's not gonna step in right now, and they're not going to. We've been down this road before. We're just going back over this stuff over and over. I think it's our responsibility, the board's responsibility, to, you know, implement something on new construction, anything like this where you're talking about just, you know, 24 inches from the line. I mean, that's not a whole hell of a lot, you know, that's nothing. So I'm wanting you guys to think about that, and maybe you could, you know, talk to the ACC people and see if they can't come up with something that they could submit to the board. But we have to do something. Holly by the Sea's gotta do something, because the county won't do it, and we must do it. And these houses now, they're just building them up so high, and all this water's running off, just like on the mine farm, okay? And, you know, I didn't want to, but I put up signs saying, stop flooding my property. They didn't like that very much. Too bad. So, think about that, okay? And think about this application. I don't have a problem with them doing the application. What I do have a problem with is did they submit paperwork showing how they're gonna stop the water from going over to the property. That's what I'm concerned about. If they did that, I don't have an issue. But if they didn't, I wish that you would send it back to them and ask them to come up with something. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Rod, can I ask a question?
Yes.
This is about the county. Excuse me, Dan, sorry. Sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Did the county just raise the elevation just recently?
It's been years, but they did, yes.
Yeah, okay, so this is an ongoing issue that the county is not addressing.
They are not addressing it. They don't know how to address it. Because for so many years, they've left it alone. So my home's down here, the builders are coming in, they're putting in a little bit more dirt, which saves them money as far as putting in their sewer and septic tanks and stuff like that. So it's saving them some money. But so now the new houses are up here and I'm down here. So what's gonna happen? Okay.
You're gonna get flooded.
And Beth's home was the same way. I mean, she sustained how many thousands of dollars of damage? $56,000. And she got new houses on either side of it. So, I mean, this is an issue that we must tackle. You can't leave this alone. Whether it's this board or the next board, we have to do something.
Is Chris Kale here today?
The covenants calls for an easement on the properties, which every house in Holly by the Sea has an easement, 6 foot on each side. whereas everybody knew my house is high up. But 6 foot on each side of my house and my neighbor's house, there's an easement where we're not supposed to put anything here. And the board continuously allow these members to come in and ask for variances for cement to be put 2 foot away from the property line. Now, that easement is there for several reasons. In case we need to run a water line to someone else, to a sewer line, or put a drainage there, that's what the county has that there for. And we continue to let the members come in and ask for variances 2 foot away from that one there. That's 4 foot over what they should be. They should stop it. And the builders, or whoever has these homes asking for variances, will put a drainage on the house, gutters with a downspout, and run it to an area where the water wouldn't go to the neighbor's house. That was helpful.
Do you have any information about how he's gonna do this?
He actually has a county permit to do a new culvert in front of the driveway, so I'm sure the county's coming out to look at it. To answer some of the questions, I know Skip's still here, but Hidden Creek has 0, doesn't have the 10-foot rule. They put the concrete right up. The county, as far as I know, they don't care about the concrete. They'll come in with the easement, Mr. Dean just said, and they'll just rip it up. It's not really a concern to them. So I don't know if that really is a concern to us, if the county doesn't care. So again, we don't really have a problem with the water runoff with this particular property. It's our decision to make sure. We just don't want to have problems because of like Dan's house. So we want everybody to contain their own water. That's all we're trying to do.
Okay, but how are we gonna make sure?
I don't think you can. I to be honest with you, I'm not an engineer. No one here is an engineer. I don't care if they take a paper cup, take it out of their gutter and flip it over. That's, as long as their water does not belong to the other person's property, I'm good with that.
Well, what's the recourse if it happens?
They need to fix it.
Well, okay, they need to fix it, but these people are talking about the damage done to their homes. I may find myself in this predicament. We almost flooded. We have an empty lot next to us, and my concern right away, since that April year.
I agree with you. That's why I'm telling you that I think we should put it in there. I want it in the minutes that they have to abide, that it was written in the minutes that you approved it, saying that they need to control their water runoff. That was my safety net. If you guys want to come up with something different, that's fine. But this is, I agree with you. I think we do need to control.
Can we amend the motion to add to it, that they have to present a plan on how they're going to prevent runoff?
But we're really not gonna know until they get the concrete in to see if there's really going to be a runoff. There may not even be an issue.
That's true.
There may not even be an issue with it, but if there is an issue, it's stated in here that
Something
they
in
do
the
have to
future,
maintain it.
maybe what we can do is, just thinking out loud here, maybe we put a curb in. You put a 2-3-inch curb in there, any water runoff and pitch is gonna run back down to the streets and not run onto the, just maybe something we can add that to, the application.
Now, it says on this little pink sticker that they need a new county permit because it was too old.
That was from us, that was from our application. He had this originally approved, this particular homeowner, he was not happy about it. He had this approved already. And we made him resubmit it because it was too old, so we needed, it expires after 1 year. So I asked him to resubmit it. If you look at the date might be on there. I think it was actually 2007.
There is something.
I'd just like to add one thing, since I didn't know that they had gone to the county and asked to put in a culvert. Now, I do know that the county will come out and shoot the ditch and tell him exactly how far down that culvert has to be in order to have a proper runoff. Now, did he submit that? He did submit the county specs. So you may have a little leg to stand on there, but I would ease on caution here that you still put something in there just in case it doesn't work. Just in case.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah.
Because the people that are there, they can't move what's already there.
That's
Right.
right.
But the county will come out, they will shoot it with engineers to tell him exactly where the bottom of that culvert needs to be.
Okay, so he's gonna put in a culvert, he said.
Right.
You're saying the county will come out and they do something to test the culvert?
Well, they don't test it. What they do is they mark in the ditch
Yeah.
how far down the culvert has to be.
Okay.
Now, before they can cover that up, they're supposed to come back out there. He's supposed to call in, and they'll come back out there and make sure that it's lined up where it's supposed to be before it's covered back up. Now, sometimes lately, the county's been, if you buy the materials and stuff, they've been sending their own guys out there to do this stuff. I don't know if they're still doing that or not, but they did.
This particular job, he has his own contractor come into it all.
Okay.
Because he's pouring the driveway too, so he's, I believe that.
Okay, so what can we say then? That you're saying that the contractor is going to take care of doing the culvert, is that what you're telling me?
I believe so.
I would
Okay,
ask
and-
the contractor, yes, let you know if they're gonna contact the county engineers to make sure it's where it's supposed to be.
Although he does not have the builder on here, on the application, but he told me firsthand, I have the builder coming, or the contractor coming.
Okay, as an ex-ACC person, I'm telling you, that doesn't mean anything. You need to have this paperwork in hand, or you don't have a leg to stand on. We've had so many people say, oh, I got this Joe coming to do it tomorrow, and he's a licensed, and you find out he's not even licensed, so.
So we could say something like pending culvert plans and the county signing off on it.
He has it, he has the county plans, the county's here, and he has a county application right
Well,
there.
you gotta be able to hold somebody accountable. The county, you're not gonna hold accountable.
I don't think you can though. If he's doing the work himself, there's nothing that says he has, you get a contractor. If he's good enough, then maybe he is a contractor, for all we know. You can't make somebody get a contractor.
Okay, but if he does it himself, I think what I'm trying to get to is if Dan is saying that under any circumstance, Dan, no matter who does this culvert, will the county come in and do what you were saying?
They will shoot it if you call in, yes.
Okay, then I could say pending that he call the county once the culvert is completed to confirm that it meets requirements to stop runoff, something like that.
Right, and they have the homeowner submit to us after it's done, and it was approved and all that. And then you've got the paperwork in the box. So you got a leg to stand on if you have to go back to an order or something. You gotta not only think about him, but you gotta think about the neighbors.
Right.
You gotta think about where that water's gonna be.
Beth Walter, 1948 Resort Street. Just for clarification, the culvert he's talking about runs in front of his house, parallel to the road. The drainage easement runs perpendicular to the road. So the drainage easement is what would be running into the culvert. The culvert is what the county issued, not necessarily his drainage easement on the side of his house.
Well, I think it's really simple. If we say that there will be no runoff onto your neighbor's property, then you can do it. But how do we prove that there's no runoff?
You get a complaint, so you're really worried about
What do
it.
we do if there is?
Then he's gotta fix it.
He's gotta fix it.
He's gotta fix it.
Is he liable for damages to that property if it causes damage?
To tell you that, I don't even know, I don't think he has I think it's a vacant land, to tell you the truth.
Well,
It does look like it.
according to the picture it is,
Yes.
but I mean, he's definitely gonna have to raise the land up on the side of this. He's gonna have to go up a couple of feet just to, and 2 feet from the edge of his property line, it's gonna be 2 feet higher than it is now.
Right.
Could we say, could somebody mention, I don't know what they're called, drain pipes? Gutters, thank you. Can we insist that he put gutters too?
Gutters are an issue on a house too. I have a neighbor that just put gutters on their house and all their sand from the yard was running into our yard.
Yep.
Because they weren't redirecting their gutters. They should have had French drains put on at the beginning, so we've been cleaning up sand in our yard for months. Actually, since they moved in 4 years ago, we're still cleaning up their mess that's coming into our yard. And they have a fence up, and so they don't even come over to our side of the yard to do anything. So gutters really are more of a, to me, are more of a hassle than this drainage.
Well, you don't put gutters on a driveway.
Well, no.
I think the downspout, she's just saying that it has a downspout, I would face it forward, so it's running down the driveway, because it's always pitched away from the house, and
Yes.
goes to the culvert.
So which way is your neighbor's drain pipe pitch?
Toward the backyard.
A lot of times they don't do it forward, they'll do it to the side to get it off to the side. That's my concern also, that if they have the drain pipe coming from the house, shooting the side, it's just gonna run to the side of the driveway, drop off, and go on to the neighbors. So there is one way to put it, if you put a curb up with the pad, it will direct the water back down to the front. But that's more of an expense to the homeowner.
Well,
You said he was already
Yes.
approved once, is that right?
He was,
And what happened?
the application expired, about 6 years old.
So the application
2007, I
expired
believe.
before he had a chance to do it? Is-
Correct, I guess he maybe didn't have the money, I don't know.
So you tried this 6 years ago?
He was going to, yes, he had the application 6 years ago. As far as I know, it was approved. I didn't go back and check the minutes or anything like that, but as far as I know, it was approved.
I'm not sure what kind of redress you're gonna have if we approve this and it just runs off.
I think if you say, control your own water runoff, I think it's pretty clear, at least you can say he needs to fix it.
And how do we enforce it? Yeah.
Have to include it in the site plan. You're approving the plan, you put it in the site plan, how he's gonna do it, you hold him to that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So how about we do
The
that?
only problem is I have with the site plan is we're not qualified to say what's going to work and what's not going to work. That's my whole point about the cups.
Well, he has to get somebody
Yeah.
to tell him if it's gonna work or not. He's got to,
Well, his
I mean,
contract-
for anybody to take the precautions to stop the runoff, it's far cheaper for them than what it cost her, $56,000 because of this type of a predicament. So it seems to me it's cheaper for the person who's building the house to take care of the matter now. I mean, how much is a ditch going along the side?
Well, I'm not sure how much room he actually has. He only has 2 feet left. I'm not sure if it's just,
Well,
French drains over
if he angles the driveway back toward his property, problem solved.
Can't angle back to the
Yeah.
foundation.
Can't go back.
Right.
Can't go back to the foundation.
I understand.
Well, it looks like the reason he's coming.
Just so you know, Mr. Kale is the person that had called for order next meeting.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Kale is the person who called to order next meeting. I just want you to know who you're talking
I
about.
know exactly.
Okay.
I know who he is, yeah.
Well, we're going to.
I fear unless we are strong on this, it's just gonna happen, the water's gonna run off, and then, it's happened. I mean, we've had builders who've cleared land, water runs off, and then we slap them on the wrist with, a couple of days suspension, and there's no penalty. So, I
I'm
mean,
saying,
it's your house, it's
Just
getting
be
the
careful
money.
before you start picking and choosing. You need to be consistent. You've been
That's right.
passing before.
Yeah,
When I
we
just
just
gonna pick him
passed.
out, it might
Yeah,
not
we
be
just
fair.
passed one last week for the same thing, and we said
Not
as
2
long
foot,
as.
so not 2 foot. This is
Again,
low.
Hidden Creek has 0 foot
Why is it,
because they have smaller lots.
how come, why is it that he has to, why is it that it's coming 2 feet?
There's not enough room. I think he only has probably 15 feet total from the edge of the house to the property line. So he needs to get a boat and put it back there.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
One of the questions I have is, who made up the site plan? And if he's an engineer, maybe that's what you need. I think that needs to be decided, it should have been decided for anybody that wants to do that type of building. If you have a site plan that's approved by the engineer, and there's a problem down the road, at least you have a place to go to and start. I think that the architectural committee could question whether the person has a site plan or not, but according to Pete, they don't have the expertise to say, this is gonna work, this isn't gonna work. So when somebody submits a site plan, they should have a professional that has a license that can ensure that it's being done properly. If you're sitting there listening to what he says he's gonna do, Pete says, well, he told me he's gonna do it, whatever. But there's nobody's butt on the line but yours, and you're, in my opinion, unless you're an engineer and have seen the drawings and have some insight into that, I think it's not your place nor Pete's place. I think they need to come with a professional to tell you, an engineered professional, if that's what's required, to give you the information that here, this is my license, this is what I do, here I am, you're off the hook. he's off the hook. The person that's doing the work needs to get the right person to do that job, and that's my opinion.
Peter Zane, 2061 PGA. This is going to come up again in the other areas, but my concern is if you set a policy of, in this case, you're talking about having the guy hire an engineer and do stamp certified plans. We've never done that in the past for the last 15 years I've lived here, 13 years. And if you do that, then you should do it in writing. You need to publicize it to everybody, and everybody from here on forward that wants a variance from the property line for a parking pad or driveway extension will need an engineer that's gonna throw, what, $500, $1,000 onto the project for them to do that. For something that, again, has not been done, has not been a requirement for the last 12, 13, 14 years. And so are we, like he said, picking out this guy because he happens to be here tonight and you've got time to talk about it? Or is this going to be a written requirement, put in policies of Holly by the Sea, that from this day forward, everybody will have to meet the same requirement, i.e. hire a certified engineer or whatever the decision is. And I note that Florida Statute 720, if you're changing rules that have to do with the use of a person's parcel, the entire membership is required to be notified of that meeting if that's going to be discussed in writing by mail 14 days ahead. That's in 720. If you're having a meeting that you're discussing assessments and setting assessments, or a meeting that you're making or changing or amending rules that have to do with the use of somebody's parcel, the entire membership needs to be notified by mail 14 days ahead.
I understand it may be somewhat of a burden, but sometimes to do the right thing is a burden. I think Pete mentioned that we've done it this way for a long time, but that's when we only had X amount of houses. The amount of houses has increased, and the runoff has increased, and our problem has increased. So I think the only way to do control is that. If you make it so easy that I come up here and say, hey, listen, I'm going to take care of the water, don't worry about it. And a prime example is selling my house the next day after I build it. You're stuck with the problem. They're all stuck with the problem. If you do it the right way from the beginning, like you said, it may be difficult, and it may cost a few extra dollars for those building homes, but it costs thousands of dollars for those that are getting flooded. So, that was my case.
Okay, it seems to me that this particular driveway extension 2 foot is a lot closer than ones we've had in the past. Maybe it's like 8 foot instead of 10 foot. But we've had 2 foot, it's very close. We can amend the motion to require an engineer's drawing. We can deny the variance. We can vote on the motion. These are the choices. The motion is to approve your motion.
I can amend the motion to say that the property owner must obtain engineering drawings.
You can't do that.
I can't do that?
If you're changing the rules, you've got to give 14 notice.
Okay,
Notice
that's
to
all
the
right.
entire
Well, then I would say,
association.
have to make a motion to deny it.
Well, the motion is to accept it, so we could, that's the motion.
Right.
Okay. We can vote on that.
Is the parcel that is next, the vacant lot?
It's a vacant lot. Well, it's a vacant lot.
It's a lot.
It's currently a
But it's a
vacant lot.
now.
Is it a lot that would be, it's a building plot?
I believe it's like, yeah, it's right on Kempton.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready for the question, Paul?
Can I just remind you though, Hidden Creek has 0 clearance. So the whole 2 foot thing is, I'm just telling you, Hidden Creek has no clearance.
That's separate. Our covenant's different too.
I know, I'm just letting them know that it's 0.
Our covenant's 6 foot.
Okay, we're ready? Okay, the motion is to approve the variance for a driveway extension 2 foot to the side property line, contingent on the homeowner maintaining runoff water on his own property. Those in favor? Say aye. Those one?
Aye.
Did you, the motion was to add?
The motion was to approve.
With a caveat?
Well, only contingent on the homeowner maintaining the runoff water on his own property, but with no penalty. I mean, that's just what.
So
You just gotta fix the issue. Well.
we're asking the owner to make sure that he doesn't run water off, but there's not really anything that we can do. We have to
That's correct. So we're voting,
Okay.
and we have, I asked for ayes. We have 1 aye,
Aye.
2 ayes. Okay,
I'm gonna say aye.
those,
I'm gonna say aye also.
okay, those against the motion? Say nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, the motion is passed 3-2. The variance is granted for the driveway extension 2 foot to the side property line, contingent on the homeowner maintaining runoff water on his own property. Can we please have that in the minutes, and is that on his permit?
Yes, containing his own runoff water?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we come to B.
Actually, just a quick question before. Is that something you want to entertain, is actually changing the application to have engineering drawings for anything closer that needs a variance? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think we can do that according to what Pete was saying. Pete Peters.
You can't unless you give a 14-day notice to the entire association.
Okay.
I mean, the board always has the,
Okay.
they can vote yes or no.
But you can direct the ACC to come up with some kind of a policy to address the water runoff issue.
I think that the water runoff issue has become so much worse. I think that's a very reasonable thing to try and see what you can craft, because we keep approving. I know the house opposite me is built at least 3 or 4 foot above, and I would hate to see what happens if you have a.
See, something like that though, you can't control. If the county comes in, they do a perk test, and they say how much dirt they need, and there's no requirement, it could be 10 feet high.
But again, you've got to consider the people whose property.
Oh, I
is
know.
runoff
Listen, I
also.
could have my backyard, same
Yeah.
thing. But they got a mountain that's 6 feet high.
Yeah.
6 feet high of dirt.
I can-
So if the county approves it, there's nothing that our covenants can say.
I'm telling you, the builders don't even know sometimes until it's already in progress.
Some of the builders, and I know from experience that, they don't care what we think at all. So here's what I suggest, that the board go ahead and ask the ACC to draft some kind of a policy. You get the ball rolling, come up with something. Then what the board can do is they can ask an engineer to participate. It might cost us a little bit of money, but I think it's well worth it to have an engineer come in here and let's ask him some questions. Let's have a workshop. Let's, say, okay, here's the situations we're running into. What can we do? And let's find out from an expert, because we're dealing with experts. So.
That's a good idea. Before we go to the next one, I apologize for not doing this before, but I would like to introduce to the membership our new general manager, April Salazar, sitting here. Thank you, and my apologies, I should have done that first.
Okay. 2551 Second Court. I think Mrs. Black is here, right?
Yes.
I was just told that they put in a new application. I'm sorry, I didn't receive it. So I don't know if you received the application.
No, when I contacted Shelby, she told me not. But there was no need for it, so.
Yes. just so everybody knows, I just recently met the Blacks. They're not friends of mine. I've just met them. Some like nice people. They've been here for a while. And I got involved with this because I'm concerned that they have been trying to get something approved here for, I think, over a year. Is that correct? So I don't understand why this went so long so far. But anyways, and I did help with this policy for special parking. When we drafted this and before we got it approved, we knew that, you know, we were not able to cover everything. You know, we did the best we could with what we had. You know, we tried to think of all the situations that we had, but we just couldn't come up with it. Now, in their particular case, and I'm probably sure that they have pictures and stuff, correct? Okay. What they have is they sit on a corner lot. In the front of their home, they have a driveway, a circular driveway. And it's a nice home, well manicured and everything. On the side, they have a secondary driveway. Now, where the issue's coming in at is that their particular house has a garage on the side of the house where in front of the secondary driveway. Now, it is 10 feet back from the front corner. Now, they were asked to put this boat in their backyard. Well, the way it's designed and everything is everything's moved up to the front of the property line. And they have a 4-foot fence or 3-foot fence. And the way they park it and everything, when they park it there, it's directly in front of the people across the street's house. So when they get up in the morning and come outside, the first thing they see is this boat. Now, in the policy we have in here, it talks about ruts in the yard, ruts in the grass, and things like that. Now, for those of you that have not been involved in Holly by the Sea in the last 6 years, we've had 3 boards that I can think of that have tried to tell people, you gotta put a pad down, you gotta put up a 6-foot fence, we can't see your boat, we can't see your RV, we can't see any of this stuff. Well, that turned out to be a big lie, okay? They got called out and they tried to sue me, of all people. And this went on for 2 years. Anyways, it was settled out of court. It was settled out of court because there's no way to, go after somebody for something like this. I mean, you just don't have any leg to stand on. Anyways, the point is this. In the policy it says, we can't cause ruts and you can't ask people to put down a slate. You can't ask people to put up a 6-foot fence. And therefore it would destroy the property. And they have a beautifully landscaped. They would have to change everything. And you can't make them do that. And plus they got a sprinkler system and stuff. So what I'm asking is that you, and I don't know if y'all have read this policy. I know some of you are pretty new, so that you probably don't know what the rules are and stuff. So what I'm saying is I think that you've drug this thing out so long now, or the previous board did, and now it's falling in your lap, and it's well over a year now. I think we need to settle this thing tonight. So, and I have had discussions with friends of mine and stuff, and they don't agree with me, and that's fine, okay? So, I'll let them speak about it.
Okay, first let me just say it's not a year. They've been turned down at least 3 times from the ACC, once from the board. So it's not like it's ongoing. We've said no many times and they just keep on reapplying, which is, I guess, their right. I guess secondly, I guess the whole rut thing in the yard, that's not really our concern in the sense that it's your right to bring your boat on the backyard. We're not saying you can't. We actually gave you a permit to park your boat in the backyard. If you want to fix those ruts, that's up to you. You want to pour a pad, that's up to you. Other people have done that. I'd say a question whether or not it's 10 feet from the house. If you look at one of the pictures, it's very close to that 10-foot rule. The garage is definitely only about 2 feet from the front corner of the house. And the big thing that we have is also the garage doors. Now, you could say the grandfathering, just to bring everyone else up to speed about the grandfathering. There have been, if you want to use that term, there's 22 that are out there. Out of the 22, 11 of them are new owners. So there's only 11 that exist. Out of those 11, only one has a trailer, a utility trailer. Now, the one I can confirm is the one on First Court. They are no longer parking their boat for the last 2.5 weeks, and I haven't been able to get in touch with them.
Because they're selling it. They have it
Okay,
as a
thank
lot.
you. Thank you. So if that rolls into your plan, what the AC is really trying to do is to eliminate all of them. And it seems like we're going in a pretty good direction. So what I'm really telling you is, I'm afraid we're opening up Pandora's box by allowing this. Because it's just what stops the other two behind them. You'll have to really keep it, you have to keep it fair, right? What you do for one, you have to do for all. You keep telling me, try to be consistent. That's what we need to be, consistent. We need to get rid of the boats in front of the garages.
So are you proposing that we remove all the
Well,
variances?
they were grandfathered in originally because of the storms.
Is that what you're proposing, that you remove all the variances for all the other people that?
Variances for, I don't think there are any.
Like you said, there's one left.
There's one left that we saw. We just checked all the grandfathered ones in. There was
There's no
22.
such thing as grandfathering according to the lawyers.
Okay, well then.
Yeah, well, it's up to you to remove it. I can only do what you tell me to do.
My concern is that, as Dan says, you know, there are some lots that are different from other lots. There are some exceptions that we've already made. I can cite 2 fences opposite my house where a policy was crafted, and if another corner house of that kind of setup, they're gonna have a variance automatically. So let's not say we never do this. We have a very odd lot here. Now, across the road, there's another corner lot that isn't like this, doesn't have 2 driveways. So I think we have to take into consideration what the lot looks like. I mean, if you are in a row of homes, you know, then obviously it's easier for you to
I understand what you're saying. I absolutely agree with you. You have to take into consideration.
And that's why I'm saying that for specific lots, because they were never considered when the policy was crafted, I don't see why they cannot, you know, we cannot, that's what a variance is for.
Another huge concern I have is the immediate neighbor next door, which is a vacant lot. Someday that will be sold. And it will be literally like in their front window. You cannot deny that. Now the owner could say whatever, I don't plan on selling it, just like you said, you have no idea what the future holds. My point is someday that lot will probably be built on and someone will be looking right
Well,
directly at that
it
building.
may or it may not. I think you can't say it will, you can't say it won't.
Just like the water runoff, right? You need to prevent. All I'm saying is be consistent. I'm trying to do my job. All I try to do is follow the covenants. I can only do what you guys tell me to do. You need to be consistent.
Do you want to approach this with the lawyers? 4 different lawyers and 4 different
No,
lawyers?
for the grandfather, that's not
Yes.
the issue on this.
Hey, Steve.
So I'm Carla Black and I live at 2551 Second Court. And an exception, by definition, is a unique situation. And our home is uniquely situated on our property. Most homes are face-to-face where the front doors face each other. The home directly across the street from us, their front door faces opposite of ours. I brought pictures, but the computer's not here, so. So when we look out our front door, we're actually looking into our neighbor's driveway and backyard area. So our boat is not in direct view of them. Because when they look out their front windows, they're not looking towards our home. They signed saying they didn't care if our boat is parked in the driveway. Now, we are on a corner lot, and most corner lots, the homes, when I walk my dogs and I'm driving through the area, most corner homes are, when I was looking, their doors face the same direction. And so their backyards are facing each other. That is not the case for our home. Our backyard has two homes that are facing directly into our backyard. And we did try to comply, because the first time we asked for a parking permit and were told that we had to park it in the back. And we did do that. And after we lived there a little while, the neighbors, the Chapmans, came over and spoke to us and said, you know, we really don't like you parking your boat in the backyard, because when we walk out, that's what we see, is the boat, instead of looking into your backyard, which we have big trees, and they enjoyed that. So my husband and I decided to move the boat back into the driveway, and that's when it started becoming an issue, because I understand that an HOA is put into place to create harmony in the community and to not bring home values down. And the policy is putting us in a position where our neighbors, if we park it in the backyard and comply with HOA rules, that's not creating harmony in our community. They don't want us to park it back there. And so we're put in a position where now we're going to have conflict in our neighborhood because we're trying to do what the HOA says. And our neighbors, I have turned in over all this time 10 signatures stating that they don't have a problem with us parking our boat in the driveway. And in fact, one of our neighbors said, well, aren't you supposed to park it on the side of your house? And that's where it is. And our house does face, or the driveway does face that vacant lot. And Mr. Chapman came and spoke quite extensively to the board and was very adamant about his displeasure of having the boat parked in the back, about they don't have a problem with it parked there. He doesn't have any intention of selling that. And yes, I could move. He could sell the property. There's a lot of things that could happen in the future. You know, and if you want to write that in, and if that property gets sold, we need to come back and readdress this with us and let that happen. But right now, that's not in his immediate plans. And so I'm just saying, you know, there are exceptions to the rule, and I think our home meets those exceptions. And I hope that you as a board would consider those exceptions, and I hope that you would consider the people that are in our immediate neighborhood and their opinion, because those are the people that we have to face day in and day out. And we've talked to all of our neighbors quite extensively about us parking the boat in the driveway, and none of them have a problem with it. So I just think, you know, rules always have an exception, and I think that is an exception. If we had a front-facing house and our boat was parked where it is right now, there wouldn't be an issue. It's a problem because it's in front of the garage doors, and I understand that. But that is to me, that is an exception, is the way our property is laid out. Thank you.
So I'd just like to start off by saying that I think that you should deny all 3 boat variances, including my own. I don't think boats should be able to be parked in. I think that we need to follow this policy the way that it is stated, because that is our only leg to stand on. So I think that you should deny the variances, and I think you should revoke the last variance that's left. I mean, they revoked the variances for usage last year. What's to say that you can't revoke this variance? So I think that you should do that. And you can make a case that I have an exception in my house, and I should be able to park my boat in the driveway, because the sides of my house are so steep that there's no way my boat would ever go on the side of my house. So if she's going to get an exception to hers, then I want an exception for mine too, because the sides of my house are so steep that no matter what I do, if I try to put my boat over there, it would tip over. So, I mean, you can make an argument for that with every case. So before you know it, you're gonna have 100 cases out there, and we're gonna be back to where we started years ago with 75 plus variances of boats and driveways. And then it's not gonna be just boats, it's gonna be trailers and RVs and wave runners and everything else, and you're not gonna be able to stop it. Because you already set we need to be consistent and with everybody, so you're not gonna be able to stop it. I just think that you need to cut it off, deny all 3 boat variances, and just go back to this policy. I mean, the policy says you cannot park the boat in front of a garage. It was revised specifically to add that in there because last year the same thing came up with a Mr. Kaiser. With a Mr. Kaiser. He had a side entry, he had a corner lot, had a side entry, and he wanted to park his boat in his driveway in front of his garage. That's why this was revised, was to specifically say the boats cannot be in front of garages for corner lots. So if you allow this, yes, it's an exception, but then who's to say that I have a good exception, so what's the difference? And I just don't think that we need to go down that road. I think you just need to follow this policy and be done with it.
So why are you asking for a variance then?
To prove a point.
What's your point?
My point is that if she does it for them, she's got to do it for me too, and she's got to do it for my cart, and she's got to do it for you.
So
You
why
have
don't
your.
you tell them what you did as the board president?
I tried to follow the covenants. I
You
tried to
didn't
follow the
follow the
covenants
covenants.
that
you
says
didn't either.
that boats are supposed to be enclosed.
No, it does not say
Yes,
that.
it does say
No,
that.
it does not say
Yes,
that.
it does say that.
No.
That is what I tried to do. And right now we're talking about this. We're not talking about that. We're talking about this.
No, we are talking about this.
You didn't follow the covenant. How about some order there, Mr. President?
Okay, I'm sorry.
So again, I'm going to reiterate. I think that you should deny all 3, and I think you need to follow this boat policy.
Thank you.
You lied.
Well, I have a question. All you people, of anybody who wants to answer it.
I think you make up stuff. Just
I'm looking at this,
Order, please.
no, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, order, please.
on page 8 of our covenants, from the Holly City Covenants, Article 6, Section 1. A literal enforcement of the provision thereof will result in hardship. Let's see. Where I should start reading. Okay. The restrictions here are contained where owing to existing or special conditions and circumstances, a literal enforcement of the provision thereof will result in a hardship. So if I'm understanding this, what this is saying that, you know, what everybody's saying, that the person really has to show us.
Say words to me like that, ever.
Excuse me. What's going on here? Let's be quiet.
Mr. Ramsey is being inappropriate, using inappropriate language.
Nobody heard it but you.
Let-
All right,
let's-
my
let's-
question
Go ahead.
is, sitting here listening to these, we argue on these variances all the time, and I'm looking at this as I was looking at it during the week, saying that we're supposed to grant variances, as I understand this, it is causing somebody a hardship. So maybe we're not having people express to us what is their hardship. You know, what is the hardship cause to you, Ms. Black?
It's not a hardship.
Well, if it's not a hardship, then according to this, I should be saying no.
Well, the hardship is you're creating conflict with my neighbors, because the 2 neighbors that face my backyard have specifically asked us that the boat not be parked there. And we tried parking that there to comply in the beginning. And so if I park it there, now those 2 neighbors are gonna be upset. And we have a good relationship with all of our neighbors in that area. And like I said, we have 10 people, which are those 2, the 3 across the street and down, the neighbors on our other side and down, all signs saying, you know, it's okay. They don't have a problem with that because it's parked on the side. It's not in front of the house. I mean, I drive down the road and I see people's boats right beside the garage. So honestly, I don't see the difference. If our house, if we had a front facing lot, our boat would be parked in the same place as everybody else's would be. I know that the one rule and the exception would be the garage doors, and I understand that. But I'm saying because we have 2 driveways, and it is a difference. And I think our house is an exception to the rule. And the hardship is, you know, I read the little email that was sent to me and said the HOA is to create harmony and not to bring down property values. Well, you, by making us park it in the back, will not create harmony in my community, in my immediate neighbors. That's our hardship. It's not creating harmony because they aren't going to be happy with it. And he came, and Mr. Chapman came and spoke at length about that at one of the board meetings. And when the usage policy came up and y'all voted not to take our usage away, we were told to reapply for the variance and that we would get the variance from the board. That's what we were told on that day, on that board meeting.
Well, when they refer to the board, we get the variance from the board, I would hope they mean provided everybody, 3 people on the board at least vote in your favor. I don't think they mean that carte blanche, you get it.
Well, I'm just saying, when you guys voted not to take our usage away, he asked everyone, well, what do you want me to do now? And we were told to reapply for the variance, and it would be granted. And Pete said, I'm not going to grant it. He flat out said, I'm not going to grant it. That's going to be your job.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that we're all going to vote in favor of that. It means is it's going to be presented to the board again, and they will vote. And if 3 of us say yes, you're in. Otherwise, you're not. It's not a given.
Okay, well,
no one can say to anybody, the board will approve it. They can't say that.
I understand that, but this was what we were led to believe the last time. This isn't our first time to come up here, and we haven't been in front of it. I mean, we came the first time, and when we first moved here, we asked for the permit because we didn't exactly know what steps we were supposed to be doing, and we complied and parked it in the back. That's when our neighbors said, hey, we like it when it's in the driveway because we don't see it. And so that's when we applied for the variance. That's when it got turned.
People in the audience,
Excuse me, can we have quiet so we can?
No, you're fine. And that's when we applied for the variance, and we were turned down by the ACC. And that's when it came here. We didn't move the boat because our neighbors we talked to them and they were still not happy. And he even said, I will go to the board meeting with you. And he even wrote letters. He would have came tonight, but he is over in Germany on business, so he wasn't available to come. So, I just feel like, at this point, we have tried what was asked of us. We want to maintain a good relationship with our immediate neighbors. So, and I understand everybody's passionate about it, and I just think every rule has an exception. And we have to use common sense about that exception. And I think if somebody else can prove that they have an exception to that rule, just like we grant exceptions to a lot of things. I've sat in these meetings a lot, and we grant exceptions to rules all the time. There's always an exception to the rule. You can never, ever come up with all scenarios that could happen.
By some people's argument, we should never, ever, ever grant any variance because any variance is illegal. What I'm saying is we very often grant variances. I cite as an example the 2 fences opposite my house. One of them, she was denied 3 times, and then she decided she was going to sue. Holly by the Sea didn't want to be sued, so they allowed the fence. When the house, the new house across from her and across from me, applied for a fence. They were told, you can have the fence as long as it's the same as this one that's been granted, thus creating an exception policy. You know, we're gonna go round and round and round with this. It is an exceptional lot. I don't see any reason not to grant an exception, because we're just gonna go and, in the end, it's gonna be granted. Because they're gonna sue, we're gonna back off. This is an odd lot. This is not a lot in a row where you can park by the side of the house. It's not even a common corner lot. Go ahead.
And Peter Zane, 2861 PGA, as I mentioned before, my concern, having watched this association for 13 years, is consistency. I'm not talking just this case, I'm talking about 3 cases tonight and any other similar cases that come along. And what I want to say is, what is the criteria, what is the basis that you're going to make your decision upon? That needs to be kind of in writing. Because what happens if you've got another lot, 6 blocks away, a corner house with a side entry garage, but maybe 2 neighbors across the street of that lot, neither one of them want the boat, either in the backyard or in the driveway. Is this just for boats, or is this also going to apply to RVs and campers and trailers and commercial vehicles? And if you want to do like the 3-month thing, if you do it for one, does that mean the next 200 or 300 people that want to keep their boat in their driveway in front of their garage door for the summer, are you going to grant all 300 of those? And is that just boats? Or does that also apply to RVs, campers, commercial vehicles, and the other things mentioned in the covenants? And the final comment is hardship. What's even your definition of hardship? What's a hardship? What's an inconvenience? And what's a desire? Now, I admit this is not necessarily unique. I think there are other corner lots throughout Holly by the Sea that are similar. Maybe not many of them, but I believe there are. So what you need to have is a rational basis, and I would suggest putting it in writing that this one was granted because it's a corner lot, but the garage door's on the side, now on the front. If you guys got a corner lot with the garage on the front, doesn't apply. This is a corner lot where the houses across the street, the lots across the street face the side of this corner lot where the garage is. And in this case, the affected neighbors don't have an objection. What if it was exactly the same thing, but the neighbor across the street had the objection? Is that part of the criteria? You need to define the criteria, put it in writing, and then try to be consistent to that criteria going forward, so that this one gets approved because there's persistence and 10 neighbors agree. Maybe that's part of the criteria. Do the neighbors facing the lot have to agree? If one of them doesn't, then you don't grant it. I don't know the criteria, and then like I said, the thing, what's on true hardship, what's an inconvenience, what's a desire. And then I'd like to talk to you about the fences. Those were, I understand, I want to talk to you afterwards because I was there when we granted it, and it's not for the reasons you state.
Thank you. I would see no objection to making a caveat to granting a variance that if the opposite lot was sold or the neighbors objected, that the variance could be rescinded. I think that would certainly cover neighbors' objections. We have granted variances for fences many times because neighbors did not object. So that has played into his case in the past. Go ahead.
Seth Walter, 1948 Resort Street. First of all, you're only addressing the people that want to park boats. What about all the people that bought into Holly by the Sea, because we have covenants that say that they can't be parking boats, RVs, trailers, or such. In our covenants, it says on the side or front of the house. So covenants say it's supposed to be in the backyard, period. The other thing is, the parking permit, if you want to call it that, is a privilege. It's not guaranteed to everybody. Holly by the Sea is not here to provide you a place to park your boat. If you can't park it where we have the policy, then you should park it outside of Holly by the Sea. The actual parking permit is a variance in itself. And I just don't, if you say that they can park it in front of the garage, then I don't feel you have a leg to stand on if anybody else wants to park their stuff in front of the garage, even if it is a corner lot. There's nothing that says we have to provide somebody a place to park their boat, period.
Thank you.
One of the things that I keep seeing and keeps coming up is the intent. Whenever you write a law or you write a policy or anything, there's always an intent behind that. And the original covenants, the intent was to not see the boats. And by having all these policies, we just keep slipping closer and closer to where, it's just gonna be the Wild West out there as far as people parking their boats or campers or anything. And there's a large group of folks say, well, this is Florida, it's a big, it's a boating community. If you look at Daytona, boats have to be stored behind the residence, or at least 5 feet behind the front of the house. In Palm Beach, they can't be parked on the side. They have to be parked on the side or behind the house. They can't be parked in the driveway. In Jacksonville, they have to be parked on the side or in the back. So it's not that Florida is unique to being a boating community. Other communities in Florida have policies that say basically the same thing that our parking policy says. That parking policy came about because of a survey that was done 2 years ago, where they took the results from that survey and crafted that policy based on how a majority of the people in Holly by the Sea that responded felt on the issue. So, if we're looking at just 1 or 2 people, my neighbors are okay with it, but the majority of Holly by the Sea is not okay with it. So please take that into consideration.
Thank you. Can we
Thank you. This is the first time I've spoken in front of the board. My name's Troy Timmons, 7199 Australian Street. Have the board members seen aerial photographs of this lot?
Yes.
Okay, so the backyard is accessible, much like mine is through a gate. So the only thing I hear, you're wanting to grant exceptions and stuff, and I understand that, but I think you ought to look at and see what is the hardship. Is the backyard not accessible? Okay, so when you're looking at, you're talking about the harmony of the association. I'm thinking property values. Much like you, I've got a significant investment in my house. So if it's a boat trailer now, I'm a boat owner. Mine's behind the fence. I go next. I keep it covered, make sure it's presentable from the road, or barely presentable if you can see it. This particular lot has access from the back. They can put it back there. I think there's a storage shed back there already.
No, the storage shed is way smaller than the front.
But again, it's back there already. So I don't understand why there would be an exception for a lot that is accessible, right? When you already have another variance for a boat that isn't accessible.
Well, then they would tear up their lot. They would tear up the easement.
Like many other boat owners have poured a second driveway and poured another pad in.
Well, that would be
to
three
meet
driveways. That would be three.
So is that a hardship? The fact that they would have to tear up their yard? Is that a reason to bring down property values?
I doubt on both is going to bring down property value.
Really, just one? There's only one? Just this one variance is what you're saying? There won't be any other variances? for a utility trailer because I have lawnmowers or some other things. Just saying, you're starting something that doesn't need to be started. When there's a lot that is easily accessible. Just because they don't want to tear up their backyard. Well, then park your boat somewhere else. Simple.
Thank you.
One of the things I find kind of amusing is people talk about, we've got to have parity, everything's got to be the same, and we're worried about following the covenants. Well, I hope we don't follow covenants because we'll be in court tomorrow, especially since now there's same-sex marriage, and our covenants before said that the usage would be affected. You couldn't, if you were same-sex marriage, you couldn't use this facility. I guess my point is that you, as a board, do see a problem and sometimes do have to make variances. I'm sure that for everything in life is not perfect. That's why you all get to make those choices, whether it truly is a hardship. I'm not going to say whether I think it is or not.
Can we get that telephone?
I'm not sure it's a hardship or not. I wouldn't even care to think. But I know it's your right to look at it and see if it is a hardship. And if it is your duty to grant a variance. It's not just you like it or you don't, it's your duty. And I think sometimes there has to be exceptions to the rule. I agree with the woman talked about. She's been dealing with this for a year almost, or better. I personally know people that were on this board that their neighbor had a boat parked in the driveway. And that same individual stood up here today. I asked them why they didn't turn their neighbor in. Well, of course, it's their neighbor, not going to do that. You have a duty to do what you think is right. Okay, not because it's your neighbor, but because it's the right thing to do. And I commend you for that, and I want to thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I make a motion to take the recommendation of the ACC committee and deny.
I second the motion.
Okay, the motion is to take the recommendation of the ACC and deny the exception. Those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, those against? Say no.
I have to abstain.
You have to
No,
abstain.
you don't, you have to explain.
No, she,
Because I was one of the people that signed to allow them to have a vote. I'm their neighbor. That's why I'm abstaining. It's a conflict of interest.
Okay, and I vote no. So we have 3 votes to deny, 1 vote against, and 1 abstention. Okay, citrus. I think we understand that citrus and iris are just on this list to make a point, is that correct?
I would think so.
Okay. Can we deny those by consent? Anybody?
Make a motion.
Well,
And
we're gonna do it as a consent agenda.